Hello. I'll sit down and, oh, there's the top of my, there you go. Hello. One person waiting. Hello, one person. Sorry that I'm late. I don't know how late I am. 24 minutes late. Wow, that's even worse than a day at work. Holidays, bedtime. Had to wait for the dog to fall asleep on son's bed before I could start the stream. But the stream has started, so remember, keep your bananas where you can see them. What a week. It's there's so much stuff going on. It's quite ridiculous, but that's okay. Things being printed, but no printing happening right now. There's been, just remove that and I'll turn off the printer. Turn off the little fan. And I'll move that screen out the way so I can sit down a bit better. Oh, 2 people now. Hello, 2 people. I suspect I probably know both of you personally. If I don't, feel free to say, announce in the comments and I'll try and read stuff out. What a week it's been. New stuff happening, new stuff arriving. Lots of videos this week. Lots and lots of videos. So I'm sorry to everyone that's been inundated with shorts and other content that's come out. There is more on the way. It isn't going to keep, I can't keep up this pace though, because I know that next week, but essentially work starts back. So things will slow right down. But it has been good to make some goals for the channel. My hope is that by, I don't know, end of the year, I'd like to have 200 subscribers. That's a modest goal to have. I know most people that subscribe to my channel have got channels with way more than that. So a modest goal to have. So I'll start by zooming down and showing you some new things that I've picked up. And yeah, and new things that have been created. I can't show all the new creations because thank you for the thumbs up for whoever that person is. But some of the creations are very, very new, and they have not been put out on the channel yet. So I can't, I don't want to spoil the surprise. But anyway, some of them are made with leftover bits, and I've already kind of shown them, so that's okay. So I'll mind your vision. Blair Witch camera work coming up. On top of the broken Philips VCR, we have, it's quite a bundle of stuff there. Let me zoom down a bit. Okay, you might be thinking, what the hell's all this gear? Well, I will tell you what the hell all this gear is. Oh, that's the books for my Black & Decker sander. If you haven't seen the unboxing, it's on the channel there. It works all right. It's got 1 speed on, or 2 speeds. It's got on and off, and that's about it. Not variable speed like my Bosch one, but the actual rotating mechanism on the Bosch broke. The mechanism itself is about $60 and a 6-week lead time. I'm playing, by the way, with a 3D printed 9-volt battery holder, so that's what you see me playing with at the side of the screen. But the lead time's about 6 weeks, and I don't have 6 weeks to not sand projects. I have got an Azedo, and I said this in the video, so I'm sorry to repeat myself. I've got an Azedo battery random orbit sander, and my God, it's random. Like it doesn't seem to have any sort of rhythm that you can sand with to get a nice consistent result. It's sort of got like this. It's sort of it's like having a seizure. So in that respect, the Black & Decker is good. All right. So what have I made? Well, I had a coffee table, and I turned a coffee table into something, and I had some leftovers. So from the leftovers, and I'll show the other part in a minute, I made some coasters. I know. I'm sure you can probably guess how these coasters came about, but they look okay. They're all right. So there's a set of 6 of those that I have made, and this is the star of all my shorts in the last week. This is my first attempt at using a biscuit cutter. I bought a biscuit cutter when I was away, and this is my first ever. All of my first biscuit joints are in this project, so I'm kind of happy that I've made a project. I know like this side's a little bit tighter than this side, and maybe I could ease the holes and move the thing over, or maybe I could just shave off a tiny bit on this side. I don't know. Plenty of options there that I could do, but I'll just very, very quickly show you that I have made a watch box. Why make a watch box? Well, what happened was earlier in the year, I had this watch fetish kick in. It wasn't really. When I was a kid, I had a Casio G-Shock watch. And I have got a shocking reputation for breaking Apple Watches. I've had 2 or 3. One of them I broke within 24 hours. And Apple Watches are notoriously unrepairable. So rather than go out and buy another Apple Watch, because really I just can't afford to do that, I started looking at what other kind of watches. And so I've got a fitness band. It's a Garmin Vivo Fit. And that's all right. Yeah, I usually had that on because I used to like a fitness type band where you could tell the time as well. But I also like traditional watches. And I had my heart set on one of these blue G-Shock watches, which were, I couldn't quite find the model number of it. But there was a movie out when I was a teenager called Hackers, and they all had Casio watches, and one of them, a couple of them had these sort of G-Shock watches. And so I got this one for Christmas, and my brother very nicely bought me a red one for Christmas because he knew that when I was a kid, I had a red G-Shock watch. And most of the things like my phone and my covers and cases and things are usually red. It's usually my go-to color. So he bought me the red one. And then I found this, and somewhere I've got my grandfather's watch that goes there, and I still have a spot for my Apple Watch. And these are just 3D printed watch holders and a 3D printed watch holding tray that I found on printables. So I printed that out and then basically designed the box to fit around it. There are lots of mistakes on the box, but everything from the lid is biscuit joined together. So there's 2 biscuits for each part of the lid. The sides are all biscuited together. For fix-it fingers, look, my chamfered the bottom. Chamfered plywood. I don't mind machined plywood. I know some people think it looks really ugly. I don't mind it. And then I got to use my router table to sort of round off everything. And it's just had multiple coats of spray lacquer. So it is far from perfect, but it's going to sit on my bedside and it's going to house my watches. So, and it was the first time I'd ever tried to mortise hinges. But fortunately or unfortunately, I could have made some kind of router jig where I used a thick piece of pine to sort of make up this gap because I couldn't get a plunge router in there. Eventually, I just decided to have a go with a chisel. So this is my first attempt at mortising non-mortising hinges. They are not perfect, but because there's a bit of a bow in the lid anyway, when they're down, the thing closes nice and flush, and I'm happy with that. So that's it. And the friction fit, it's all right. Doesn't hit any of the watches. So happy days. That's my watch box. Let me just go to get. Sorry, I got very close to the microphone. Then I've just got another thing to go get because there has been more woodworking happening this week. One moment. So the wood for these coasters was from the legs of a coffee table that I found at the side of the road. And from that, I sort of took off the finish, glued all the legs together to make one big sort of lump of what looks like Meranti, possibly. Cracks and all. I tried to fill in and drizzle glue down into the cracks where I can find them. But, if they break, it's a scrap wood project. It's kind of the life that it's led. Amazingly enough, oh, sorry, that was loud. This must have come from a house where people smoked, because every time I cut into this timber, it smells like cigarette smoke. So I'm actually really glad that I finished these and varnished them now, because if I've got a piece of unfinished stuff, if I pick it up and sniff it, you can smell the cigarette smoke. It's kind of unreal. But anyway, so they were just cross sections, just cut down the legs, and so the legs it wasn't a very tall table, but it made 6 of those, so you can imagine that, that's sort of that much of the block. And then I had some pieces left over. In fact, I had some pieces. There's some more pieces. There's some of the original test cuts. I thought maybe that would be too thin too thin, I think, so I wanted some chunkier ones. And then basically I had a bit left over after you have 6 of those. I had a bit left over like that. So you can start to see where this came from. And I thought maybe I could cut this down and make something. And what I noticed is that my son's teacher for the year wrote on her, getting to know you thing that she likes woodwork. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice to make something for my son's teacher? So there we go. It's not the prettiest thing because it's got wood filler and stuff in it, trying to fill in the cracks and whatnot, but it still needs to be rubbed back as well. But this is kind of it's a scrap wood project, I know. And this is, some of it isn't actually wood filler, some of it's just the natural sort of, color of, or discoloring of the wood. I've made her a pencil holder. And again, a block from the table legs. You can even see the spot where the glue was, and I had a sticky foot on the bottom of it. So a block from the table legs, and then some slices that were cut out of the big block that was left over, run through the table saw. So some slices like that on the sides, and then knowing that they're all the same thickness, some slices set inside and just cut a little bit shorter. And basically everything just glued together, held together with clamps, and it's got some cracking and whatnot. But if it breaks, it was just an idea to do it as a gift. So I don't mind that. If somebody said, "Here you go, there's a box for your screwdrivers to go in or something, or for your solder suckers," just put random tools in there, that would be fine by me. So how big is it? In fact, how big are all these things? Let's give some scale here. So the coasters are 2/3 of a banana in either direction, obviously. And then height-wise, well, I'd say about 1/10 of a banana. They're really, I think these worked out to about 12 millimeters or something that I cut them out. But there you go. Maybe a little bit thicker. Some people would probably say that's too chunky, but if you're just putting something on it, it's just to stop marking a table. And if these break, well, they're made of scrap. The pencil holder. Well, obviously it's got a base that is very close to a full banana. It's probably about 9/10 of a banana there. Obviously by about 2/3 of a banana in width. And look at that, wouldn't you know? Look at that. That is a full banana in height. So obviously it has quite the cubic banana capacity. Maybe I should 3D print her a banana as well to keep in there. This could be the banana holding vessel. See, it's just done in spray lacquer. What else? Oh, the watch box. I didn't measure the watch box. Hold on, I've just put it out of the way. I didn't measure the watch box. The watch box is... Where's my banana? It is... Let me go, if we go this way first, we'll go height. It is... Again, about 9/10 of a banana high. I think if I go that way, oh yeah, well there you go. Accurate. Are bananas accurate measuring? I said that was about 9/10. That's about 9/10. Pretty damn close. 9/10 of a banana in height. Probably 1.5 bananas in width. Now depth, I think it's a little bit bigger, but it's not too much. I think when I had to cut the pieces for the trays, to be honest, there wasn't much in this dimension as opposed to this one. I think when I did that one plus the 38 mil for adding the sides, it was very close to that. So that makes sense. So yeah, we should have a cubic banana calculation leaderboard or something. So this that still needs to be rubbed back with some 800 and then give it another go of spray lacquer. But yeah, I've a very new experience and probably the most router tabling I've done. You can probably see some burn marks. It feels like it's hardwood compared to this. It doesn't machine particularly nicely, which makes me think it's not Meranti. It might be something like Tassie oak, but I don't know. It's quite heavy as well. Like Meranti is quite a light. It's not. It is a hardwood, but it feels quite light. It's not very dense, in my experience. But maybe I can only get rubbish Meranti here in Bumfudge. I don't know. So yeah, that's okay. Let me move that out of the way. Move in. So what biscuit joiner did I buy? Here is my biscuit joiner that I bought. It is, depending on where you're from, if you're from this side of the pond, it's a Ryobi. If you're from America, hello to any viewers from the United States, it's a Ryobi. See, I translate. Back in the day when you used to be able to buy this brand before it became this horrible color, you used to be able to buy this brand in most hardware shops, but now you can only buy it at a certain green hardware store. So while we were away, we made a beeline for the big green hardware store, and I spent lots and lots of money there. What kind is it? This is a Ryobi EBJ 900 RG. So basically what happens is it's kind of like an angle grinder, except instead of having a grinding wheel, it's got this sort of protective housing, and there's a saw blade in there that when you push this forward, the saw blade protrudes through this little guide here and cuts a sort of crescent-shaped slot, an ovular slot in a piece of wood. And so you have to set the thickness of your piece of wood for this bottom fence here to make sure that this will plunge halfway up or down that piece of wood. So kind of all the mistakes I made were really in the setting up of this tool. And the reason I bought it is that I apparently am teaching box making this year at school, or the year level I'm teaching involves doing projects involving box making. So I wanted to get one to practice because it would be really bad for all the students to have done a lot more biscuit joining than I have. I do plan to do more. I've got about another week where I've got time to do some more. So I'm looking forward to having another go. But I'm running out of scrap. But fortunately, I've got other rubbish wood that I can use and other projects that need biscuit joining. So I'm going to put that away because I've got limited space on the bench at the moment. Where is the thing? Where did I put it? Oh, there's the biscuits. Where did I put the thing? Sorry, everyone. I put a thing down and I can't find where I put it. I will endeavour to look. No. I think I might try some. Might try to make some serving boards with biscuit joining. That's a biscuit. That's a number 10 biscuit. Now I didn't realise until after I had bought them and brought them home that I had bought the wrong kind of biscuits and that they were not ideally suited to what I was trying to do. But I'm cheap, I'm nasty, and I just went with it, and they seem to work without too much hassle. So, what do? Where's my thing? I put it down. Now I can't find it. Is that it? No. That's not it. Aha! There's my thing. Here is my other thing. Oh, do I have a... Ooh, I don't know if I do. Oh, I do. Hang on. Aha. I do. I wonder if it'll work, actually, like this. It might work. me that one of them. Right. There we go. All right, the fluke tester. Again, 2 videos out. The other video, no views. No one is interested. Now, the funny thing is, I've had people message me going, how does it work? Show us what it does. Well, since nobody wants to go and watch that video, and let's be fair, who would want to? I'll see if it works with an extension cord. Now, if we are plunged into darkness, I'll know that I was wrong. Okay, so I'll sort of zoom up a little bit. Oh, sorry. Oh, I've got microphone droop. Hang on. Okay. So I'll flip it up that way. So basically, it's got 3 LEDs. They will flash on the camera. Well, they did on my phone anyway. So the 3 LEDs basically let someone know that your power point, your socket, is wired correctly. So I guess we're going to go and check the socket on the power board and see what happens. Like I say, don't push the RCD button. The RCD button does not trip the breaker in the shed. It trips the main breaker at the house, and you have to go for a long walk to go and put it back together. So, or put it back together to try and test it. So I'll plug it in, and we'll turn it on. There we go. We've got 2 lights. So the 2 lights mean, those 2, that it is correctly wired. If we had only the middle one lit, it would be an earth fault. If we only had the far right one lit, it would be a neutral. If none were lit, it would be a live fault. If we had a red and a green, it'd be a live neutral reverse. So that is something that I have done before. And unfortunately, with live and neutral reverse, sometimes things still work. So it's not always, I think that's right. I'm sure Aussie Mac can correct me if I'm wrong. But sometimes when you do that, things still work, and you might not realize that there is a problem. The only problem is that when it's off, it may not necessarily be off, if that makes sense. And then if it's red, off, and green, so red, off, green, that means your live and your earth are reversed. But that would also probably indicate that if you connected anything, it would trip your circuit breaker. So one of those things that I do occasionally swap power points in my house, and it's not always a good idea to just go, oh well, the red one was at the top and the green one was in the middle and the black one was at the bottom, because different manufacturers do things a little bit differently, and you can't always see L, N, and then the E or the little earth symbol. So one of these could be a really handy little thing. I would highly recommend, if you are a person that does this kind of thing. I know it's for what it is, for how big it is. This was $54 delivered. It's actually on special, $49.95 at Sparky Direct. Get one of these. It's actually a really good thing. And by the way, it's also got a beeper to tell whether there's current coming through. There we go. So that's it. Handy little thing to have, and to think that you could plug it in and you're not probing power sockets and stuff. It doesn't seem like a bad idea to me. And it was just, sorry, there's a giant arm in the way. It was just a chance to buy something by Fluke, because let's face it, I will never afford something by Fluke. Unless Fluke want to send me something, unless Fluke is listening and they decide they want to send me something because I really like yellow tools. Fluke, if you're listening and you want to send me a thing, even if it's one of your pens, one of those little voltage, or send me one of your bloomin' Yeti mugs so I don't have to spend $500 on a meter. But yeah. So there's that. What else? I did buy a new solder sucker. I bought this actually back in Whyalla. I said the name. I bought this at JCar because my solder sucker, my Toledo, Holy Toledo, it looks like it works until you actually put any kind of pressure on it, and then it just goes, yeah. There's not really much. So apparently there's an O-ring in here that needs to be cleared out again, but there we go. It needs to be full of solder again. Oh, look at all that. Look at all that schmutz in there. And the plunger. The plunger. I just got to clean off the plunger. Look at that. It's just covered in solder schmutz. But this O-ring looks okay. It doesn't look like it's sort of... Ugh. Oh, I'm guessing that's the one that we're talking about. I just clean off the O-ring, mister. Probably should have, thought about doing this with like a rag or something instead of just having a go with my fingers. And of course, there's no paper towel here because you know what? Who decided to do an oil change today? Yeah, that'd be me. Why? Because I'm a fool. Where's my paper towel? No. I decided I'm trying to help a friend. I'm not a mechanic, but I'm trying to help a friend who's sort of on hard times, so to speak, and to try and help them keep their car, that they obviously need to take care of themselves and their family. So it hadn't had an oil change in a significant amount of time. So the plan was to today dump out the very old oil, put in some new oil, and then drive it around for a couple of days to allow all the new oil to do its work. And then sorry, I'm just cleaning this. I should do some action. Then on Monday, actually drop the filter and the cleaning oil and put some fresh stuff in. Some Penrite, because that's good oil. I think it's good oil. I know not everyone will agree with me. That's okay. Some people like Mobile One and stuff like that. That's fine. Use what you use. I just, the only reason I use Penrite is that I have the fortunate position of having some, cars of all the same vintage, and it's easy to just use the same oil in everything. Because then if I go and buy oil, there's only one kind of oil I have to buy. So I think that makes sense to me. All right. So that goes that way in there. Put that back up there. Hang it the spring. I think I'm making some progress on this VCR, at least with timing the carriage, because the carriage moves a lot further than it did previously, but it's still not fixed. And it probably never will be, if I'm honest. I think it will always be not very good, but that's okay. Will that thing push out? Do you reckon that'll push out? No. I just want to, when you just want to stick something in something and just hoof out all the schmutz. There it goes. Oh, this thing will probably work better than the new one now. There you go. You can never have too many solder suckers. Put that on a t-shirt. But being a very busy time. What else happened today? I put in a bench top in our kitchen today. We bought a bench top from a well-known Swedish flat pack furniture store. Just because they had a sort of scratch and dent as is section. Will this make a difference? Oh, that does feel a bit more positive. Oh, that might be a go. Ooh, I might have to keep this one in the packet for later. So we bought one from the. I've got an offcut. I'll go and get the offcut of it. I think I already did the dimensions of that in the video. So if you're looking for how big it is, there it is. And this is the cute little socket tester with beeper. This is the little doodad that it comes with some instructions, which is nice. Yeah, in South Australia, people, and I do, even co-workers and whatnot, will say to me, it's illegal for you to do your own electrical work. And look, I'm quite envious of people in the States that do their own. I don't want to get up and crawl through the thing, crawl through my roof or whatever. But you can. I think the legislation in South Australia does say that a competent person can, replace a PowerPoint. A competent person can change a light switch. What a person who is not an electrician cannot do is they cannot certify it, because certification has to be done by an electrician. If somebody tries to do it as a competent person, they're essentially falsifying information that they're an electrician. So that's the main difference, I think, is that you can do it, but you still have to pay someone to get it checked. So sometimes it's just easier to pay the person to do the job. Or if you've got a long-suffering friend who happens to be an electrician, what you then do is you offer to do all the sort of grunt work, and then they just do the connecting bit, and then can certify that it is safe. Because at the end of the day, all the rules around electrical work, it's not about being in a nanny state or anything. It's just about stopping people killing themselves or killing someone else. If I wired up a PowerPoint and my kid electrocutes himself on it, I wouldn't feel very good about that. I'm sure no one else would either. Right. Sorry, that was a mini rant there. A safety rant. We can rant if we want to. Remember that safety dance song? Anyway, I was cleaning up, and I have a bit of a cleanup thing. I was cleaning up in the shed, and I forgot. I'll add it to the description. Channel recommendations. Now, I do not have my phone with me that I normally read my channel recommendations off, but here goes. First thing, the new season 6, I believe, of Measure Twice, Cut Once is about to commence on YouTube. Head over to YouTube and search for Measure Twice, Cut Once. Sumo and Chris are hosting again with James Fix-It Fingers making some appearances as well, I hope, with some handy hints. So it's a really good series. It's Australian made, so please get on board and Measure Twice, Cut Once. So if you don't know about them, Measure Twice, Cut Once, Measure Twice, Cut Once, Measure Twice, Cut Once. It's not always about woodwork. But there is a lot of stuff about 3D printing and CNCing, and even if you're just a sort of handy person, it's nice to see some locally produced content. So Measure Twice, Cut Once. I should also continue my weekly plug for language learning for beginners. And also, have you heard about Duolingo? Let me tell you, you can learn from the comfort of your own phone in multiple languages. I'm learning German, Guten Tag, and it's interesting, slightly addictive. It's kind of gamified, and so you do get incentives for having a streak. Not that kind of streak, cricket fans. So I'm currently on, I think it's 91 or 92 days in a row where I've done at least a lesson a day. It's good fun. So if you haven't, Duolingo, language learning for beginners, Measure Twice, Cut Once, and of course, I'm so honored to have been mentioned or at least used in the latest Fix It Fingers video. So of course he has to be my other recommendation for the week. Fix It Fingers on YouTube. Go and have a look at the kerf bending this week, and a little guest appearance from a familiar invention to viewers from this channel. So go and head over and have a look at that. All right, I'll put those in the description at the end of the live stream. I was cleaning up the workshop today. Now I have actually put an advert out in my local marketplace group for anything that's Philips, particularly mid 90s Philips. So the way to I feel like such a nerd. The way to tell is if it's black with gold badging, it's 90s Philips. But I am also interested in older things. So one of my favorite Christmas presents from my dad was he found me a Philips flip clock, which is awesome. And so it's got a little incandescent backlight, and you can just see a little mechanism going away, and the numbers flip over, which I think is so much cooler than just picking up your phone to look at the time. And what it does mean is during the night, I can look at the time, but I don't have to have blinding bright LED backlit displays looking back at me. But where was I getting to? I was cleaning out the shed, so I put an advert out for anyone that's got like old Philips gear. So my little TV is a Philips, the workbench is a Philips, and people might be wondering why that is. It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing. Maybe I'll do a video about it one day. But anyway, I was cleaning out, and I found a radio from my grandfather's workshop, from his shed, and you'll never guess. It's a Philips. And I nearly sold this on eBay a few years ago because, we had to clear out and whatnot. And I thought, oh, well, what's the use of keeping it? It's only a little, it's probably only AM. Yeah, I think it is only AM. But hey, I liked my, it's AM FM. I like my talkback gardening on AM radio, although the shed is a bit of a Faraday cage. But I'm so glad that I kept it. Because it's a memory of my grandfather. Not that he was an avid sort of shed lurker. Probably, he was more of a family guy than I am. To be fair, I like my solitude times. That's not to say I dislike family time, but I'm very awkward like that. So I'm probably more comfortable being on my own because there's no expectation. But anyway. This is really nice, but it does need a bit of a clean up. So I thought I will grab some brushes and whatnot, and I'll see if I can give this a bit of a clean. And the chat is bubbling away, but never mind. It's nice to see that the streams are getting more views after the event, some more concurrent views, so that's good. I never complain about people watching it later. That's all right. So I just thought maybe I'll give this a bit of a scrub out. And if this video recorder never works again, well, it just becomes a nice bit of... if this video recorder never works again, what I'm going to do is cut out this, and I'm going to mount it to a piece of wood and put it on my bench top as my worktop, just because that would be funny. That might be a project. Find some leftover wood somewhere. Oh, and I should mention the watch box. Again, with all my wood projects, it's all stuff from the bin at work. Just partially because the price of timber here is shocking. It is absolutely terrible. So I find pieces that are basically where students haven't measured twice and cut once. They've cut once and measured twice, but they've only measured twice after the event to try and check why it's not working. Thought I heard voices there. So it's all scrap wood. And it's nice to give scrap wood a new lease on life. Also did a project that involved pulling apart the pallet that my bathtub came on. So that was good. The last thing you want to do is pay to dump things that can be used. But I also know that, there are people that just aren't into that kind of stuff. And, or you'll get called a hoarder and stuff like that. And I suppose if that worries you, don't do it. But I don't know. I used to worry about those things. I'm slowly learning to not. Goodness me. At least it does have a regular figure 8 power cord. And it looks to have, that might be an external, like a headphone jack. So Maybe it can be plugged into some speakers. Hopefully there's no dead batteries in here. Hopefully past me, oh, there have been. Hopefully past me decided that it needed to be cleared out. And I suppose if it was going to come apart, antenna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it would come apart if we need to. I'd love to there to be this is a Philips 90 RL250 45R. Yeah, I'd love to know the year this was made. There's probably some audiophile channel that would be able to tell me. Some audiophile out there that knows. Really, I suppose a bit of a blast with compressed air probably wouldn't hurt this. Made in Hong Kong. Made in Hong Kong. All right. I think that foam's probably no good. Ugh. So I'll see if I've got something that I can give it a quick squirt with. What have I got? What's this? Screen cleaner. Perfect. Bit of screen cleaner. Why Philips? Well, I think the story about why I like Philips gear would probably sound like a bit of a whinge. And it's not. It isn't a whinge at all. So I should preface that it's not a whinge. If it sounds like a whinge, I'm probably just not telling it right, really, to be fair. Right? It's not a whinge at all. When I was a kid, I think I was quite lucky, okay? Certainly in regard to electronics, we, as a family, were very fortunate. Part of that fortuitousness... Oh, there's a crack there. There's a little hairline crack. All right, some glue there. Part of the good fortune was because... Let me find a cotton tip. That my dad worked as a service agent for a number of electronics companies. So we got to certainly see and occasionally use items from certain companies. Now, my recollections are poor at best, but at the time, Philips, and I'm talking 80s and 90s, Philips were not very good to deal with when it came to issues regarding warranty. You know, if you imagine the equivalent now there, Philips, had its fans, sure, but they were kind of like Ford, and Ford has its loyalists, but they weren't the best at customer support. And I guess from my dad's perspective, it was a pain in the backside to deal with companies like that, just because parts didn't necessarily. I mean, Philips was still based in the Netherlands, I think, at that point, so they didn't always have people that you could contact in Australia with issues. And this is back in the time when people fixed stuff. They didn't have people you could contact to say, hey, I'm having trouble fixing this thing. Whereas other companies were far better at that. Chief among them from our dealings was the company Sharp. Sharp were very good at certainly offering him information that led to repair of products. In fact, we nearly moved away to get, so he could work with Sharp. But he was a warranty agent for all the brands, and we live in Bumfudge, which had, I think at the time, probably quite spoiled really for the era, had 3 electrical repair places, for home electrical, televisions and video recorder, stereo, radio, that kind of thing. Not necessarily, what's that? That's a rubber spacer that's come out from where? It's a bit of very old foam. It might have come out from the fuse holder there. So for home electronics, not for fridges and air conditioners and that kind of stuff, that was someone else's bag, vacuum cleaners and stuff. He did all that gear. Dad's deal was home electronics. Microwave ovens were pretty much sort of the only appliance. He didn't put new elements in toasters and things. Although, hey, we've spoken to lots of people that say that you can do that kind of stuff. So I'll say they used to do that kind of stuff. Put new cords on irons and stuff. In fact, my grandpa used to spend a lot of time doing that kind of thing. He was a leading hand electrician at the steelworks here. He was a leading hand electrician at the what is a much larger steelworks, or was at the time, in Wales. I think it's, I will mispronounce it, but I think it's Llanwern, which is in Ebervale, or was in Ebervale. I don't even know if it's still there. It's probably shut. But he was a leading hand there. Got a job. The winters were not kind to him. He had terrible asthma, and so his doctor told him he needed to come to Australia. What does this have to do with Phillips, Jim? I'm getting to it. So yeah, he fixed a lot of stuff. He got told to come to Australia. Well, he got told to go somewhere warm. He originally tried to go to South Africa, but failed the medical. So he couldn't work underground in South Africa. Probably a good idea, really, because that would have been very, very strange. Nothing against South Africa, but I think with the way South Africa was at the time, and being, sort of British migrants going to live in South Africa, that would have been very awkward to grow up in. And that's a very first world take on, apartheid and, black rights, but, would have been very awkward nonetheless. Where am I getting to? So they moved to Australia. So Dad worked for a lot of companies, and really what that meant was that when we came to buying things for us to use at home, we really stuck to brands that were, good in his view. And, he would go down a storm right now, because he would be, think about Louis Rossman and Right to Repair. He was all about what brands are good and what brands are terrible to deal with. He was electronics John Cadogan of consumer electrical goods. And Philips was not good to deal with in Australia. Maybe in other areas of Australia, they were probably okay. Regional Australia, us country bumpkins didn't really get much of a look in. So we just didn't buy Philips things. Fortunately, I always found myself, I tell a lie, one year I did get a Philips thing. I actually got one of the first portable CD players, the first Discman. It was a really chunky Philips thing. And my brother had got a proper stereo. And my mum and dad, my dad in particular, I should say my dad, my mum and my dad both tried to make sure that we were both looked after, that one wasn't a favourite. And when something big like that happened, like my brother got a CD player, then we tried to make, they tried to make it up for both of us. So my brother got an actual sharp CD player, and I got this like a double cassette, a sharp double cassette, and a Philips Discman that I could connect together to be a CD player. Unfortunately, I had no idea how to connect it, and my brother, bless him, got so sick of always having to connect my stuff up for me. Poor guy. But yeah. Anyway, I digress. So when I got to sort of wanting to buy electronic things, I just always really found myself drawn to Philips things. But I knew that I couldn't, I wouldn't get them if I asked, because they weren't good to deal with. They were bad at customer service. So we just didn't buy them. But now I'm my own adult human. And, sometimes people have got these old things sitting around. I like to try and see what I can find. And maybe, it's going to take a while to do this, maybe unearth a treasure. There is a particular portable CD player that I remember really lusting after as a sort of 12 or 13-year-old, and sort of going through and making a list of the items that I could sell, basketball cards, and, what if I sold my old sneakers and stuff like that to try and finance this Philips CD player that was available at Radio Rentals, which is how I can date it, because, Radio Rentals in Bumfudge was a big deal from about 94 to 2000. And I reckon it must have been in 94 or 95 that it came out. So, and it was a kind of boxy looking thing, single CD. I might not even have had a tape, or I might have had a single tape, but it didn't sort of look like it had a tape player on it. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. Wow, this is slow going. Oh, wow, you can really see the contrast on the screen there. And then we were at a job the other day, and somebody had left. I nearly contacted the owners of this house that would, I was helping clean a vacated house, and on the wall were the speakers for a Philips Pro Logic system. And if you grew up in the 90s, around the time when Star Wars came back out on VHS in like Dolby, the first surround sound releases on VHS of Star Wars, Pro Logic systems were the go. People would add them onto their regular stereo. So you would basically spend, I don't know, about $300 or $400 and get an amp, a center speaker, and two front speakers. So you'd have a 5-speaker surround sound, but you often wouldn't have a sub. There'd be no subwoofer involved. And they were big time. I have not found a single one for sale in Australia. Lots of Philips Magnavox ones. Sometimes if you sort of find someone's, big stereo setup for sale, you might. Is it sort of making a difference, or am I just wasting my time? I think it's slowly getting there, but it's going to be a long time going, I think. And then the kicker, there is another kicker, is my friend Dave. My friend Dave, who is no longer in the world, and the world is a worse place for it, in my opinion. Really nice guy. I met Dave at university, and Dave got a degree in engineering, and ended up working and doing work on with early Bluetooth. I remember he was talking about this thing called Bluetooth that for home computers wasn't really a thing back in 2000, but how did he know how big it would? I mean, you think about what you're using with Bluetooth today, and then subtract 20 years. Yeah, that's the era we're talking. That's when he was working on Bluetooth 20 years ago. And he was doing Bluetooth stuff for, particularly for people with disabilities. You know, even things like he made, you know, a simple Bluetooth device that would call 000. Or, you know, a Bluetooth piece of jewelry. You know, think about wearable technology. I know it's in very simplistic terms. He made a Bluetooth necklace that would call a loved one if somebody to wear it fell over. You know, back in 2000. Anyway, Dave wound up working for Philips, and I know it sounds silly, but it's just a way to see these things around that I, you know, can, you know, still get to think of him. So yeah, there's the heartstrings moment of the stream. And if Dave's family ever see this, or his wife and kids, because he left behind 3 kids. He was a really nice guy, real top guy. So yeah, that's why Philips, basically, because one, compensating for childhood, not compensating for childhood, buying the things that I wouldn't have bought as a younger person. 2, because I've always seemed to really like the brand. And 3, because of a close friend who's not here anymore. So, you know, everyone's got a reason for buying something. I buy Apple computers because they work. And I'm not meaning Windows computers work. I just don't like messing around with them. I really don't. You know, unless it's a games machine, like retro games, you know, Leisure Suit Larry. I'm not interested in messing around. I just want to turn it on and not have any sort of impediment to my day, because my computers have become such a functional thing for me now. Back in the day, I mean, I was a PC guy for years and years, and like a lot of people that became switchers, I just got sick of it. I just got tired of it not working, or it needs an update, or this won't work, or you need a new video card if you want to do that. And people will say, obviously, that Apple do that kind of thing now anyway. You know, they disable so you can get the newest phone. The computer hardware side of it seems pretty robust. It seems to just function as it should. I've never had an experience where, you know, I've obviously checked the system requirements, but I've never had an issue where Apple software has updated and then suddenly something that I was using before doesn't work, or, you know, I need to suddenly go and buy a new computer. I basically buy a new computer because it gets too slow, or because, you know, salary sacrifice times come around again and I've got the capacity to do so. That's about all. Again, very gross. Very first world take on it, but there you are. There you have it. So I don't aim to become one of these, you know, audiophile collectors of stuff. I do. The big stereo I bought secondhand earlier in the year in the house is also Philips, and the CD clock radio that currently isn't working is a Philips, and there is a 90s version on Gumtree currently, and I'm sort of I'm tossing up in my mind whether I go for it or whether I just leave it, because I've now got the flip clock, which is a very cool thing. But I think as you get older, you just like what you like, don't you? But I think as you get older and you like what you like, you really start to learn that you didn't need to justify why you like what you like. And that's probably something I wish I learned as I was younger. Don't justify why you like what you like. You just bloody like it, don't you? You know, that's it. There's no need to justify it. You just, why do you like that? Well, because I do. Why do you do that? Because what was that Robbie Coltrane cracker? Because I like it. I wonder if I've got a an actual rag, which might be better at this. Ugh, I'm still sort of blotting off mess. It's a boring stream, isn't it? Never mind. Someone might watch it later. I'm worried that my what was that now? Oh no, my Made in China came off. I'm going to stick that back on. I'll put that back on. Oh, that was my medium wave AM/FM badge. Well, that's going back on. I'm not leaving that off. That is going on as part of this continued reverb of Gramps' radio. I remember he had a TV in his shed. It was a brand I'd never even heard of. It was a black and white deli, and it weighed a ton. And he gave it to me out of his little shed. And it was an Astor. So it sounds like a Doctor Who monster. Astor. It'd be a whispering monster as well. You know, Astor commands you to open this door. Could have been an Ice Warrior name. Astor. People that are older than me will probably go, oh, I remember that, but you know, not many, unless it was a sort of kitschy thing, like there were some little black and white, tiny portable TVs for sale right up until the end of CRTs. But most people were just, you know, they just wanted a color. I think we had a color portable. I remember it was sort of, it did the family rounds. I think it was my grandpa's TV, but it wound up just sort of being the go-to portable TV. So like when someone was in hospital, you know, in the 90s, and they didn't have television in the rooms because it was like a public hospital, and they didn't do all that stuff, someone would bust out the General Electric color TV. The color TV, like Quint was probably talking about in Jaws, you know, don't forget the color TV. Getting a bit quick at this now. It's funny the things you remember. It sometimes makes me wonder, you know, if I'm on the spectrum, because I can tell you that my TV I got as a kid was a Sharp CX3451. And I think I remember pestering my dad because we used to get a lot of stuff from Sharp that was distressed stock. So it had been on display somewhere, sometimes in the Sharp building. And I was just on Burbridge Road the other day. In fact, I ate fish across the road from the old Sharp building. I remember going there a lot as a kid. You know, if we went on holiday to Adelaide, it usually involved a trip to Sharp and NEC, funnily enough. But we never usually had NEC stuff. I think we were treated the best by Sharp as far as a support experience. And my dad's still friends with the chap that he was quite palsy with from Sharp from all those years ago, and still sees him. So, and there was a time that my dad's friend from Sharp helped me when I was poring over my propositional calculus homework when I tried to do computer science, and then I realized I actually wasn't very smart. So, and he helped me on the bus on the way home from what at the time was called Technology Park, but they now just call Mawson Lakes Industrial. I think he was working for Ericsson or something at the time. Remember when Ericsson was a thing? Remember that? You know, James Bond's new phone will be an Ericsson. When Nokia was they won't go anywhere. Why would anyone want to buy a Nokia? They're not serious about making phones. I remember Ericsson, Motorola, they were the companies that you wanted making your phone. So it's turned into me mostly just cleaning, unfortunately, but there you go. I've got a bit more work, a bit more voiceover to do on the palette project video, and I hope it will be done and out by the end of the weekend, which would be good. Unfortunately, I kind of made the video. This is going to sound like a complaint. I kind of made the video before I knew what the official rules of the palette challenge were, and now I've kind of done it, and I'm going, oh, I've not really addressed that very well, have I? So that's going to be a bit of a pain, but never mind. Something will come about from it, won't it? Oh, that's probably a bit too fizzy, to be honest. I might just sort of try and agitate some of this dirt off. And then see how much I can blot. Ready? Blotting paper at the ready. Blot, children. Blot. Ugh. Quite a lot of mess coming up in my blotting action. But unfortunately, with this sort of cheese grater Mac Pro design, with lots of little plastic pores, short of taking it apart and washing it all, there's not really much I can do to clean in all its crevices. So I'm just going to do the best I can with what I have, as I always have done. I think it's just going to take many, many repeated cleanings to blot. Yeah, it's just going to take quite a lot of time. I think I'll leave that there and blow it all out tomorrow. Tomorrow we are away to a water park, so that'll be fun. Take the boy out for the last one of the last times for the Christmas break, and yeah. So what were those channel recommendations? Measure twice, cut once. Fix it fingers, definitely. And if you still haven't done it, language learning for beginners. All right. Well, I'll leave it there tonight. Take care of yourselves, and remember, always keep your bananas where you can see them. I hope you've enjoyed this ranting and cleaning brought to you by no one, but maybe one day someone will sponsor the channel. All right. Bye, everyone.